Hi, mateys. This is Captain Mel, formerly Mary Ellen Letarte, till I had a bite of pirate stew. That happens to be the name of the book I'm reading today. Pirate Stew by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Chris Rydell. Pirate stew, pirate stew, pirate stew for me and you. The night my mom and dad went out, I said, we won't be babysat. They said, you must not grump and pout. We're going out, and that is that. We have planned quite an exciting night. At first, we'll dine by candlelight, then watch a most instructive show in which we'll learn how flowers grow. You have to promise to behave. Then from the hall there came a pitter thump. We know you'll both be brave. Say hello to your babysitter. His hair was gray, his face was scarred, right leg a peg, left hand a hook. He grinned a grin and said, my card. It read, Long John McGrawn, ship's cook. My mom and dad said, time to run. Mr. McGrawn is going to feed you. Long John said, mateys, you have fun, and we will call you if we need you, which we will not. So off they zoomed. My sister whispered, we are doomed. My parents had not been gone long when someone knocked upon the door, and two cracked voices raised in song were joined by several voices more. The door was opened. In they came. A pirate crew. They were not tame. Now one was fat and one was thin. One had a hanky on her head. Oh, I got a hanky on my neck. One played upon the violin, 15 bad men upon a dead man's chest, and such like pirate ditties. My sister said, excuse me, when is dinner? Coming soon, my pretties, replied a pirate queen. So then the pirates headed for the fridge. And gazed inside with puzzled looks. Some of the pirates stretched their heads and pirates sucked their hooks. It's difficult to choose, said one. Impossible, began another. We have to feed 'em, Long John said. I told their mother and their father. We pirates always keeps our word. At that, each pirate nodded head. And so they carefully conferred. Arr, beans on toast? No beans. No bread or scrambled eggs. Too complicated. Spaghetti looks like worms, one said. Old Long John thought. He hesitated. He said, me hearties. This is true. We ought to do what pirates do. We ought to make a pirate stew. Long John produced an ancient pot. We will serve it piping hot underneath a pirate's moon. He beat his spoon against the pan, and with one voice they all began, shouting out most joyfully, now we're back home from the sea. Pirate stew, pirate stew, pirate stew for me and you. Pirate stew, eat it, and you won't be blue, for you will be a pirate too. Start with onions, start with carrots, add the seeds that feeds the parrots. Pulverized with heavy pestles, leaks are good except in vessels. Add a figurehead so curvy and some lines to ward off scurvy. Half a dozen silver spoons, half a sack of gold doubloons. Mine were melted down for earrings. That's the stew you'll get rich in. Here they danced upon the kitchen. Add a haddock, fat or thin, splice the main brace, drop it in. Tumble in the smorgasbord, stir it with a pirate sword. Season it with mermaid's tears, sang the band of buccaneers. Cannonballs and red bandanas, pineapples and brown bananas, locks from Davy Jones' lockers, blood and thunder, shilling shockers, and a slice of plank for walking, and some extra R's for talking. All the seashells she sells surely, pop the lid on most securely. Cook it in a treasure chest, serve it, eat it, then digest. Finally, one ancient codger said, I've got a Jolly Roger. So he threw that in as well. Then they rang the dinner bell. Pirate stew, for me and you. Pirate stew, eat it and you won't be blue. You'll become a pirate too. But my sister said to me, if you eat that pirate stew, you'll be what? You'll become a pirate too. So we left our bowls of stew, quite unnoticed by the crew, much too busy chowing down. Now they cried, we'll go to town. For the house became piratic. Sails billowed from the attic. All the pirates called, ahoy, mateys! Raise the anchor, girl and boy. We went out into the garden, hauled the anchor off the railing. As the moons above the yardarm, called the pirates, let's go sailing. They sailed that house about the town. They sailed it left, they sailed it right. They sailed it up, they sailed it down. They sailed it out into the night. They sailed our townhouse down the road. Old freebooters never stop, sang the pirates. Then they spotted Sally's little donut shop. I am closing for the night, Sally told them, but the crew shouted, we are pirates bright, here to do what pirates do. Hand over your donuts, hearties. We will have a donut party. She said, there this morning's donuts, slightly stale. No need to shout. Would you like to take and eat them? Otherwise, I'll throw them out. All the pirates cheered so loudly, threw their hats into the air, paid a gold coin, stating proudly, pirates always pay their share. Donuts jammy, donuts creamy, donuts chocolate, donuts pale, donuts yummy, donuts dreamy, donuts only slightly stale. Me and sister gobbled up a lot of donuts for our supper. Have you ever had a donut for supper? Ahoy, matey, I have. Then we dropped the pirate crew beside the saucy treasure chest, where pirates guzzle rum and do whatever pirates do the best. And as Long John steered us homeward, buccaneers called Toodle Pip. Soon we anchored in our garden, in our house, our home, our ship. Parents tiptoed in and found us sitting on the kitchen tiles. We were terrified they'd ground us. Not this time, they were all smiles. Long John told us that, as kids go, you're the cream of any crop. Then they spied 2 dinner bowls untouched upon the countertop. But Mom said, gosh, that smells like stew. And we are both so hungry here, we told them. No, they aren't for you. They're more or less a souvenir. What luck, cried Mom. Oh, good, said Dad. A late night snack is what we need. Our meal tonight was very good. Let's snack, said Dad. Said Mom, let's feed. We yelled, that's what you must not do. Ah, too late. As one, they spooned and scoffed, yum, yum. They said it's scrumptious stew. What do you suppose happened, kids? Now hoist the pirate flag aloft. And that is why, since then, we've had a pirate mom and a pirate dad. Pirate stew, pirate stew, pirate stew for me and you. Ahoy, mateys, the end. And that was a book by Neil Gaiman and Chris Rydell, award-winning team. The end.
Hello, my name is Rich Letarte. Tonight I'm going to be reading Players in Pigtails by Shauna Corey and is illustrated by Rebecca Gibbon. It's about girls playing sports. Girls playing sports, now, that's not unusual today, but it was not always the case. So before I really start reading, I would like to interject a bit of history regarding World War II and baseball. Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7th, 1941. In early January of 1942, Judge Landis, the commissioner of baseball, wrote a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt offering to shut down baseball on the professional level due to manpower demands of the war. The following day, President Roosevelt responded to Judge Landis, thanking him profusely, but insisting that baseball go on. He felt that most able-bodied athletes would volunteer as soon as possible to lend a hand in defeating the Axis powers. By early January, more than a handful of ball players had already traded in their baseball uniforms for those of the military, among them future Hall of Famers Hank Greenberg and Bob Feller. The president felt that the American people needed a diversion from the anxieties of the war, and yes, the quality of play would suffer. But this would give older players another chance, along with those with minor disabilities and not as much talent. His letter is considered the green light letter. The original is at the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. People with disabilities have always risen to the challenge. President Roosevelt himself was a victim of polio before he turned 40 years old. Jesse Owens could have been a victim, but he took 4 gold medals in the 1936 Olympics, scorning Hitler's master race. Glenn Cunningham lost 4 toes in a farm accident, but went on to be a champion runner. Nancy Kerrigan overcame an attack to take a silver medal in the Olympics. Helen Keller, deaf and blind, became an acclaimed author. Pete Gray played Major League Baseball. Pete Gray? Who is Pete Gray? Well, actually, he wore this hat. Pete Gray fell off a running board at the age of 12, and his right arm was severed above the elbow. That did not stop him from playing baseball. Originally right-handed, Pete learned to use his left hand so deftly that he played in the high minor leagues as a hard-hitting outfielder. He was promoted to the St. Louis Browns and played the entire season of 1945, lending great credence to President Roosevelt's theory. Until then, girls, while not disabled, were not seriously considered for sports other than tennis and volleyball, and their rules were vastly different for basketball. But women did men's jobs, Rosie the Riveter, and supported the war effort. That leads us to Players in Pigtails. Let's begin. By Shauna Corey and illustrated by Rebecca Gibbon. Katie Casey wasn't good at being a girl. At least not the kind of girl everyone thought she should be. Her clothing was rumpled. Her knitting was knotted. Her dancing was a disaster. And no matter how hard she tried, she just couldn't connect with home ec. But there was one thing Katie was good at: baseball. Katie could catch any ball with any mitt with her eyes closed. She could hit any ball with any bat, sometimes with one hand behind her back. She preferred sliding to sewing, batting to baking, and home runs to homecoming. Her parents were not at all pleased. Why not piano or painting, they pleaded. What good is baseball to a girl? But Katie couldn't be swayed. She walked baseball, she talked baseball, she even dreamed baseball, much to her parents' dismay. She went to the ballpark every chance she got. She loved the hot dogs and peanuts. She loved the shouting and singing, and signing autographs. But most of all, she loved watching the professional players play ball. Sometimes she even imagined she was one of them. Every spring, she showed up for Fairfield High team tryouts, and every spring, she was turned away without even getting a try. Better stick to ballet, the boys said. What good is baseball to a girl? But baseball was starting to change. America was at war, and more of the country's boys, including the professional baseball players, were going off to fight. The fields were almost empty, and the fans were getting frantic. Even President Roosevelt was worried. What was a country without a national pastime? No one wanted to find out. Finally, Phil Wrigley, the owner of the Chicago Cubs, had an idea. If women can work in factories and even join the army, he said, why can't they play ball? Outrageous, everyone said. Girls playing baseball? No one will pay to see girls play baseball. But Mr. Wrigley didn't listen. He sent out 30 scouts to find players for his league, the first and only girls' professional baseball league. The scouts searched high. They searched low, near and far, and to be perfectly frank, they were flabbergasted by what they found. All over the country, girls were playing baseball. They played in Washington State, Washington, D.C., Texas, California, Florida, Louisiana, New York, and even here in Massachusetts. One of them was Katie Casey. Say, sister, said a scout when he saw her curveball, how'd you like to go to Chicago and try out for a real team? Would she? Katie didn't have to think twice. She went straight home, she packed her bags, kissed her parents goodbye, and boarded the very next train to the Windy City. When she got to Wrigley Field, she broke into a grin. There were hundreds of girls. There were farm girls, city girls, tall girls and short girls, girls from far away and girls from down the block. But no matter what they looked like or where they came from, they all had one thing in common. They all loved baseball. Katie had never felt so at home. Sign her up, said the coach of the Kenosha Comets when he saw her swing. The All-American Girls Professional Baseball League was on its way. Everyone is curious about the strange happenings at Wrigley Field. Unheard of, said one concerned citizen. Oh, girls don't like sports? It's certainly not ladylike, said another. What good is baseball to a girl? Blared the newspaper headlines. The league managers heard the talk, and their stomachs started to twitch. They knew the girls were ready to play ball, but was the country ready to watch them play ball? The managers decided to launch an emergency campaign to show the country just how ladylike baseball could be. First, they designed special uniforms for the girls to wear. Dresses? Asked Katie. But she shrugged and put one on. After all, at least she was getting to play ball. Then the managers signed the teams up for charm school. Pinkies out, girls. Posture. Think swans. Stand straight. Finally, it was time for the big test. The girls were graceful, they were elegant, they were perfectly charming, and they were ready to play baseball. On opening day, 18 swan-like players emerged from each locker room and onto the field, but something wasn't right. Katie heard a giggling in the stands. It grew louder and louder. Careful, you might break a nail, girls, someone shouted. Players in pigtails, roared the crowd. Is this a ballpark or a ballroom? Everyone laughed themselves silly until the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League started to play. And they played, by far, the best ball they had ever played before. By the bottom of the ninth, the score was Rockford Peaches 9, Kenosha Comets 6. The bases were loaded, and Katie Casey was at bat for the Comets. She stepped up to the plate and looked out at the stands. She'd been waiting for this her whole life. 3-2, the big one due. The pitcher threw the ball, and Katie swung. Crack! The ball sailed up, up, up into the air. She took off running. It's a grand slam home run, shouted the announcer. The crowd went wild, and Katie cheered right along with them, because for once, no one was asking what good baseball was to a girl. They were all too busy talking about how good girls were for baseball. The end. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Lunenburg Storytime, the books we love. If you'd like to get involved and become a reader, we'd love to have you come into our studio and read a book that you love. Our contact information is lunenburgaccess@gmail.com. So send us an email today and let us know if you'd like to become a reader. Thank you.